Okay, we are good.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find it online. Thank you. We acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. So thank you, everyone, and welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and our first order of business will be the election of the committee chair. So I'm looking for any volunteers or nominations for committee chair of the audit committee. Trustee Laskin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to nominate myself.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Seeing none, welcome, congratulations, or I'm just going to put it for, is it a motion? Or do we need a motion for election of the chair? So I'm looking for move. Thank you. Seconder?
Trustee Pay.
Thank you, Trustee Pay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I will turn it over to you, Trustee Lott.
Thank you very much. Do I need to move?
Yeah, that would be best.
Sorry, I just. Thank you, everyone. Can I just ask, because this is my first meeting virtually for this committee, can you just explain through you, Mr. Nortes, who is the staff to this meeting, how people put up their hands to want to speak or be recognized, and the voting process? If you could just explain that to all of us, that would be appreciated.
My pleasure, Chair. Thank you. So the audit committee does not use the application typically used for committee meetings of the board, eScribe. All of our votes are taken by show of hands or by an oral vote to the affirmative or opposed. Any resolution that's put onto the floor must have a mover and a seconder prior to it being voted upon. In very general terms, those are the broad strokes of how we conduct business at this committee.
Thank you very much. So will the screen reflect?
The screen, all the resolutions, pardon me, Chair, all of the resolutions that are slated to be considered today will be on screen for everyone to see.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Are there any declarations of possible conflict of interest? Seeing and hearing none, may I please have a mover to approve the agenda?
Trustee Pay.
Thank you.
Trustee Wall.
Thank you. Staff have asked if we could add an oral update on the Auditor General, the value audit that we've all just found out about. Can you please tell me, can we add that as number 12 then before private matters? And then private matters becomes 13. So the agenda as amended, mover and a seconder, it has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Any opposed? I'm asking that simply because I can't necessarily see everyone. Thank you. The agenda is approved as amended. Now we're on to the approval of meeting minutes of September 20th and December 7th. Mover and a seconder, and then we can ask if there's any questions. Thank you. Ms. Pilkey.
Trustee Pay.
Attendance at the December meeting. I can certainly move the November meeting.
Certainly. I'm happy then to separate them out. So the 20th of September, 2022 minutes, is there a mover and a seconder for those?
Trustee Pay.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you, trustee Arts. Are there any questions on these minutes? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Those are carried. The minutes now of the 7th of December, 2022. Is there a mover
Arts?
and a seconder?
Trustee Bay.
Thank you, trustee Pay. A seconder?
Trustee Arts.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on that? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Those meeting minutes are carried. Are there any delegations, Mr. Nortes?
Chair, we're not expecting any this evening.
Thank you so much. Now we're on to staff updates. 7.1, the committee meeting dates for the calendar year 2023, an oral update. Associate Director Zucker?
Thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Marissa Chu.
Thank you very much.
Through the chair, for the upcoming committee meeting dates, we currently have 4 dates that are scheduled. The first one is April 3rd, 2023. Next one is June 26th, 2023. And then it's September 18th and December 4th. And we'll be setting up the calendar for the next year, later in this year. We also held a number of audit committee training sessions in January and February just this past month. And Paula Had, our senior manager of RIAD, will be updating this committee on that later in the agenda.
Thank you very much. So I believe you said April 3rd, June 26th, September 18th, and December 4th.
That is correct. Thanks.
Thank you very much. As this is an oral update, is a motion required? No, thank you very much. And I'm assuming you've checked those dates against the days of significance calendar.
That is correct.
Thank you very much. Will all meetings be at 4 o'clock?
At this time, yes, it's set at 4 p.m.
Thank you very much for confirmation. Item number 8, annual report, the compliance program overview and metrics that you can find on page 9 of the agenda. Associate Director Zucker.
Thank you, and I'd like to turn it over to Systems Superintendent Elizabeth Addo, please.
Thank you, and through the chair. Today, this presentation is regarding an update on CDSB's mandatory compliance and training program for the 2022-23 school year. As part of the presentation will be Lorraine Linton, Executive Superintendent of Employee Services, Rita Simmons, Manager of Leadership, and Nazia Rahim, Manager of Labor Relations and Investigations.
Thank you very much. Is it coming on the screen or
yes.
are people just
I was
speaking
just
to
going
it?
to ask for Rita to please have request to share the screen so we can present the PowerPoint, please.
No, nothing.
Excuse me, Chair, did anyone move this report onto the floor?
No,
No.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pilkey. My experience is it's only after the presentation that we'd move, or can somebody correct me?
Chair, the typical process at this committee has been that it's put on the floor.
Thank you
And
for
then
clarifying.
there are questions and speaking to it.
Thank you very much. So may I have a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor, please?
Trustee Bay.
Thank you, Trustee Pay. A seconder? I'm happy to second it then to get it on the floor. Thank you very much. And now we'll go to staff for the presentation.
Just permission to share, to access the screen, please.
We're just doing some technical sorting out.
That access has been granted. You should be able to share.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And through the chair, next slide, please. So as part of our compliance and mandatory training program, and to promote a culture of accountability and transparency, our goal is to educate employees on the laws, regulations, policies, and procedures they must comply with as part of their job responsibilities. We want to ensure that staff have a clear understanding of their expectations and to ensure that each employee must be accountable in fulfilling the responsibilities in compliance and mandatory training. Next slide, please. We want to ensure that as a system, there is an understanding between the difference in compliance training and mandatory training. And on this slide, you'll see the definitions of both. And when we're speaking about compliance training, this is training that employees have around the laws, regulations, and policies that an organization is legally required to provide and applies to the employee job responsibility. When we're speaking about mandatory training, we're referring to training that employees have that are related to job-specific learning in relation to the board priorities and commitments and is deemed essential by the organization. Both compliance training and mandatory training are placed to help TDSB in part avoid legal and regulatory violations, protect the reputation of the organization, and promote the culture of compliance and transparency. Now, next slide, and I'll turn it over to Lorraine and Nazia for the annual events declaration.
So through the chair, under the Education Act, Reg 521, all employees, service providers, or those who come in contact with our students are required to conduct a PRC upon hire. And on an annual basis, we are also required to collect annual offense declaration, AOD, on an annual basis, so employees can declare if they have any new criminal code convictions. So we have to keep track and monitor on an annual basis the compliance of those under the Ed Act. Next slide.
Thank you. And through the chair, I will ask Rita Simmons, Manager of Leadership, to bring us through the next set of slides, please.
Thank you. In your package, you will see a set of percentages and numbers, and this represents the number of staff, be it permanent or our temporary casual staff, who have completed compliance training as of February 13th, 2023. There's no significant difference as we have presented this in the past. So you'll see the numbers, and I'll just sort of move through the screen so that you can sort of see the percentages that we have in terms of completions for our permanent staff, which is in green, for the various courses that staff are required to complete, and then the numbers and percentages of complete for our temporary casual staff. A point to note is that for our temporary casual and occasional teachers, we are now compensating staff to complete compliance training, and this came into effect in 2020. And so the monitoring of these staff to ensure that they complete the training is underway. I'll continue. So in terms of our accountability and monitoring on an annual basis, we set a completion date this year, well, last year, actually, it was December 23rd, 2022 was the date for completion. We acknowledge that staff who are on approved leaves or unpaid absences are not expected to complete training until they've officially returned to work. And you'll see that's reflected in the numbers, because the numbers obviously are not reflecting staff who are on leave. Annually, school-based staff are provided time to complete a training, be it the first or second PA day of the year, to complete their compliance or mandatory training. And central staff are provided time in consultation with their manager to complete this training. We recognize that principals and managers have responsibility to ensure that staff complete their training in a timely manner, and also ensure that they generate reports and stay on top of staff who have not completed all their training requirements by the expected deadlines. and implement any corrective action as appropriate. And as I mentioned earlier, as of fall 2020, anyone who falls under our casual support staff or occasional teachers are now compensated for the completion of compliance and mandatory training. In addition, communication regarding training requirements, expectations, and deadlines are provided to staff through a variety of our communication tools, such as direct emails to staff or System Leaders Weekly or Direct Line. We continue to have ongoing education and awareness campaigns to raise the awareness, in particular to our new staff that are hired, so that they're fully aware of the expectations and the responsibilities that they have to complete the training to support them in their work. And we have a learning management system, MyPath, which provides functionality and allows us for more thorough monitoring, management, and tracking of compliance training. So that's been in place for the last couple of years. And this year, we are developing a procedure that includes an accountability process to ensure that staff are clearly informed about the importance of their annual responsibilities and to fulfill the expectations that'll be set out in terms of compliance and mandatory training. And then I'll turn it over to the annual offense declaration team.
So through the chair, staff on approved leave of absence are not required to complete DAOD. What we do for employees who are active, from April to June, we do a targeted approach through email, direct line, the systems bulletin, mail, to get 100% compliance rate. Next slide, please.
Was that the presentation?
Yeah, was that the?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So through the chair, we're open to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I see Ms. Pilkey's hand.
Thank you very much. Through you, Chair, my question, first I would say that the numbers seem to have improved quite a lot versus prior years, which I think is great. That's my impression. Is that your impression? There is no comparables to prior years here.
Through the chair, yes, Trustee Pilkey, the numbers.
Not Trustee Pilkey, not Trustee Pilkey.
Oh, sorry, I
Pilkey,
didn't.
Ms. Pilkey.
Sorry.
Pilkey. Okay. Yes, the numbers have improved from last year.
And in situations where the numbers are low, what kind of consequences are there for employees or their supervisors? Like how are you planning to get the numbers up in situations where the numbers are low?
Thank you, and through the chair, I will start. So we have an automated system that tracks employee groups for those who have not completed their mandatory or compulsory training. So those automated systems are reminders to the employee and the managers for completion. And I'll also turn it over to Manager Rita Simmons to speak about some additional employee groups.
Thank you. For our casual temporary staff, that group of staff is a little more fluid in terms of people leaving, people coming in. So the numbers do reflect that. And so I do recognize the numbers do look lower, especially in that group for some of the training. And so we continue to work with employee services to identify who the new staff are who have come in, and they receive notification and information to complete their training within 10 days of hire. And as staff leave, as I said, the numbers do fluctuate a bit, but we do have an automated process, as Elizabeth has said, that allows us to send messages to those individuals. They don't have a manager that they report to, so we have to communicate directly to those individuals to ensure that they're aware of the expectation. And I believe once we have the procedure in place and the accountability process in place, that we'll be able to add some additional measures to ensure staff complete training and increase the numbers where they are showing low.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, I have one last question. The information on the annual offense declaration, there is no statistics on how many have completed and how many have not. Is that because we are at 100% and it's all fantastic?
Through the chair, I wish. But there were, as we were looking at the numbers, there was a glitch in the system that collects the information, and I did not want to bring faulty data to this committee. So I endeavored to do that the next time, to give you some statistics over the last few years.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Chair Chittislin.
Thank you, through the chair. One of the things that isn't in this report is data regarding trustees in their training. And so I'm just wondering, in terms of the mandatory training that trustees are required to do, where do we fall into this? I know we've got it for kind of all the other staff groups. We're not staff, but it is important that trustees complete this training. So what percentage are we at this point? Thank you.
Thank you. And through the chair, trustees training is captured in our system that's called MyPath. And I will turn it over to Rita for the reporting piece, please.
Thank you. We will have to come back and share those numbers with you. I don't have those with me for trustees, but I'm happy to share that information at another point in time.
Okay, thank you. Do you think, is that something we could have put in trustees weekly perhaps, or would it report back to this committee? What's the best thing to do to staff?
Happy to put this through Trustee Weekly. We can share that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you very much. I think a reminder is important. And as this report's on the system, I think trustees are part of the system and it should be reflected. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, can I have a vote then to receive this report? All in favor, say aye or put
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Moving on. The next report is about the Student Information Project update. Item number 9 can be found on page 23. Associate Director Zucker.
Thank you. And through the chair, I'd like to turn it over to Executive Officer Peter Singh.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Associate Director Zucker. I'm going to request Mr. Nortes, if you can pull the slides as part of the PDF, that would be great. While slides are being pulled, I just wanted to also acknowledge Comptroller Marissa Chu, who's actually joining us for her last meeting at the audit table. I just wanted to acknowledge her 10 years of work at TDSB. And she was also a staff lead for this committee and other things too. I just wanted to acknowledge that work. And I also wanted to welcome our external nominees, Robin Pilkey, to this table. As the slides have come up, can we go to the PDF, please?
Thank you very much. And we'll put more on Ms. Chu at the end of the meeting so we can formally congratulate her and thank her.
Thank you, Chair.
Excuse me, Chair. Could we have a mover and a seconder for this matter?
Thank you very much. I keep forgetting that. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for this update on the student information system?
Trustee Arts.
Bay.
Thank you very much. I think I heard Pay and Arts.
Excellent. Thank you very much. This is the regular updates we have been bringing to the audit committee for the last 2 years. And part of the project commitment, there was an ask at the table that regular updates be provided to audit committee and finance committee as the team sees fit. So we've been on quarterly basis coming to this table. Next slide, please. At this stage, I wanted to share that we have kept the status for this project at yellow, and the reason for that has been Actually, the Power School itself is a live system of record, and that's happened at the school startup last year in August, September. So every activity which is related to attendance or recording grades is done on this new system itself. Our legacy environment, which was built around Trillium SAS, School Information System, is a read-only for this school year. And in the near future, we will be sunsetting that environment. The project remains yellow because there are two pieces. Those are still due: the parent portal and the e-collect forms functionality that needs to be taken care of it. Next slide, please. This is a very high level of what we have done in 2022. The real cycle for this new project started in February, which is actually with the registration, and then the scheduling happens for both secondary and elementary. And then the class setup happens, and then the schools get ready for September to just welcome everyone on this new platform. And you can see in a little bit of a pink or orangey on your screen, in October, the parent site and eForm, that's the parent portal piece that has been delayed. And we are actually working on those pieces, and updates are later in the slide why the delay is there. Next slide, please. The list of items, so we just wanted to flag for this table, is being taken care of it. Elementary reorg training has been done, and we also have trained everyone who touches Power School when it comes to front office at each and every school. That was done early October last year. And then again, Power Teacher Pro training, which was to support the teachers at both elementary and secondary to do their report cards, has been completed. And next piece was around assessment and reporting. We wanted to make sure we have everything in place for teachers to actually deliver their report cards as part of the Power Teacher Pro, which is just a module extension of Power School SAS itself. Power School enrollment module, which is again the central student interest program, has been also implemented. That was part of the ask as we launched this program, which addresses the day school and elementary alternative programs also. We also kicked off the special education migration from a legacy system, which is built around SAP CRM program or platform, and that work has started now. We have engaged the stakeholders and started planning and capturing the requirements to make sure we are ready to deliver on the special ed module. Next slide, please. And earlier, as I mentioned, that we haven't been able to push the parent portal in eForms. The reason for that has been around the authentication piece, which is not in sync with what we have been running at TDSB. Power School had a different way of doing it. So we have engaged Power School and also behind the scene Microsoft team that works with Power School on the tech part to help and sort this piece for us. And so we can have a resolution to this and start preparing the launch itself. Next slide, please. At a very high level, some of the outstanding workloads integrate the French immersion application process into Power School for 23-24 school year, the next upcoming school year. Also address the outstanding issues with the parent portal and deliver a pilot, hopefully later in the spring. And the big piece for us is the special ed module. Continue with the spec ed team to get things sorted out, then scope them, design it, and we need to build, test, and then the training happens. And also work with our Power School special programs team. And staff will be trained on the new PSSP. The goal is, again, in May 2023, the functions and the data will be migrated from SAP CRM platform to the new platform for 23-24 school year. Next slide, please. This was a high-level schedule we had in place with audit committee as we reported in. And actually December was the last update, but at that committee, the team requested that we come back for one more final update. So this is at final update. We are providing to audit committee as part of the regular reporting cycles. Next slide, please. On the budget side, at the very high level, you can get a quick snapshot of 22-23, what was has been spent, and also the actually to date as of 15th of February where we sit on this front. Again, I wanted to flag for this table that we have delivered this project on time and in budget. From a business perspective, that's extremely important, and that was one of the reasons why regular updates were needed at this table, because it was flagged that in quite a number of cases, some of the big projects normally get delayed. But I just wanted to say kudos to the team that worked behind the scenes to make sure this project is delivered on time. Next slide, please. That's it. Thank you very much. At this stage, I'll take any questions the table might have. Back to the floor.
Thank you very much, Executive Officer Singh. If this is to be the last update, but there are still outstanding items, do you plan on coming back in the spring or next fall to just confirm that the outstanding items were delivered on?
As the table wishes, we will come back with an update later in the fall.
Thank you very much. Others may not share that view, but I think it would be a great idea to wrap it up just to ensure the project. And thank you to staff for confirming the budget implications. Are there any questions? Ms. Pilkey.
Sir, I have a couple of questions. Thank you, Madam Chair, through Mr. Singh. On the page that says issues and risks, it notes that the current PowerSchool portal authentication process is not compatible with the method that aligns with industry best practice and TDSB's strategy. Are there other areas where the PowerSchool doesn't align with industry best practice? It seems odd that that would be a problem for them. Could you speak to that a bit more?
Through you, Chair. Again, no, we haven't found any other pieces. Authentication is something when we configured our original parent authentication, we actually worked with Microsoft team. And again, that's a standard that Microsoft has established, and we believe other service providers will leverage that standard also. So, but PowerSchool had their own authentication system in place, which wasn't our strategy. So we were on two different paths. But we have engaged Microsoft and PowerSchool technical folks that this needs to be resolved for us. We do not want it to have a separate or a unique authentication environment, which is not a standard. We'd like to stay with the standard that has been established globally, and it's built around Microsoft ecosystem. But on other fronts, no, we don't have any other conflicts with them.
Through you, Madam Chair, so you're confident that they will be able to resolve this?
Yes, I am. And that's the pressure we're putting on both Microsoft and PowerSchool teams, that they need to agree on what will that norm be, and that norm has to work with us.
Okay, and my next question is, on the next page, it says integrate the French immersion application process. Does this mean that PARS is being eliminated?
That's part of the transition, yes. We will be transitioning all that features and functionality over to the new platform.
Okay, thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, I also think that if there are still pieces that are outstanding, either coming back to this committee or to FBEC might be a good idea.
Thank you very much. Were there any other questions? Please speak up because I can't see you on the screen.
Madam Chair, this is Trustee Wong.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wong, please go ahead.
Thank you. I don't know what this is talked about in previous meetings. When I looked at budget, there is a significant part of the budget, which is 18K dedicated to the years 2024 to 31, I believe. So is it for like a annual, is it for maintenance, licensing update for that kind of cost? Because it's compared to the whole budget, it's a pretty significant cost.
Thank you very much for the question. I'll go to staff.
Through you, Chair. Trustee Wong, you are correct. This is the annual licensing cost for the remaining number of years.
Right. And again, it's within the contract, so I assume that it would not be so-called the cost be increased or updated in the future years within that contract.
That is correct. This is the timeline established, and we have a contract in place for that.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Were there any other questions?
Hey, Chair, this is Joey.
Thank you
I
very
have a question for
much.
Mr. Singh.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Singh, on page 31 of the package, which is slide 5 of your section, it's as Ms. Toki was asking, Ms. Good was asking about the slide as well.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Joy, but we can't hear you very well.
Oh, you can't? Sorry.
Appreciate if you could repeat your question.
Hold on for a sec. Let me just see. Can you hear me better?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Singh, on page 31 of the package, on page 5 of your the issues of risk, the parent portal and e-forms was not delivered. I just want to kind of better understand what the implications for this setback would be. For me, it's, what are the pilot students going to the big things? Not going to be through this on portal.
Mr. Singh, could you hear?
I'm going to try to paraphrase the question I heard. The implications of parent portal and e-form and the functionality piece related to it. So the parent portal, as we documented, is a landing. You can consider as a landing page or a website where parents come in, log in, and behind the scenes, we authenticate saying, yes, you're a parent and you have 1 student, 2, 3, or 4 learners in our system, and bring all that information together into a single screen for parents to look at information related to grades or attendance, and also submit some of the electronic forms. Those go home at the beginning of the school year. Or any digital consent needed, or later on school might trigger some other forms, part of the needs year round itself. So all that activity gets consolidated into a single site, and parents actually stay connected to our ecosystems behind the scenes. So just wanted to make sure we're able to move away from some of the legacy or the solution we have right now into a consolidated school information systems. So that's the intent why we wanted to bring all these functionality into a single space. And part of the strategy is also we wanted to make sure that we don't stop at this piece when it comes to parent portal. Our strategy is we should be able to bring parents through a one single door. Once we authenticate them, all the services we actually need to provide to parents electronically, we should be able to bubble those services through this parent portal. So this is a very important piece for us. We just wanted to make sure we get it right now. There is a parent authentication in place right now, and parents actually, when they do that, they have access to Brightspace learning management system environment, and also our Excursions application online also. Those are the 2 applications connected right now with the parent portal. And that parent portal piece authentication was built around Microsoft's B2C, means business to consumer model. And we're hoping that we will push PowerSchool to adopt that platform also, so we don't change our existing authentication for parents. Hope this info helps. Thank you.
Did that answer your question, Ms. Cho?
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any other questions? I have one, and I'm not quite sure what the protocol is, so I'm going to pass the chair to Ms. Pilkey because she's in the room.
All right, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Executive Officer Singh, when you are testing the parent portal, and I know you're not there yet, will you be involving PIAC?
Yes, we actually go back to PIAC and other tables to provide those updates also. And yes, we will be involving individuals, but parent authentication happens right now. It's not something new. We just wanted to make sure the Power School piece also works the way we would like to see it. So this is not something new on that front. It's already in place because, as I shared, Brightspace and Excursions is already working on the authentication piece.
Thank you for confirming that. Similarly, if PARS is being migrated, will the French as a Second Language Community Advisory Committee be informed of that?
So on all our module rollouts, we do reach out to all connected stakeholders. They will be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll take the chair back. And seeing no further questions, all in favor of this recommendation then to receive the updated report, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Then I'm moving on now to item number 10, which is an update from the Regional Internal Audit Team Engagement Status Update. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report?
Trustee Wong.
Thank you, Trustee Wong. A seconder, please.
Trustee Bay.
Thank you very much, Trustee Pei, Associate Director Zucker.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'd like to turn it over to Paula Hatt, our Senior Manager of Regional Internal Audit Team.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hatt.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, I'd like to welcome all of the new committee members. Now, before I provide my update, for the benefit of the new members, I'd like to give you a quick background on the Regional Internal Audit Team, as our internal audit model is a little bit different from the normal internal audit model. So a number of years ago, the ministry started to provide funding for internal audit, as most of the school boards across the province lacked an internal audit function. Given the funding available, it was decided to create teams throughout the province that would provide internal audit services to a portfolio of boards as a shared service. So TDSB is part of the Toronto and area internal audit region. So we're a team of 5 that serves the English, public and Catholic boards in Toronto, York Region, and Peel Region. Our mandate from the ministry is to provide 2 audit or consulting engagements per board per year, in addition to follow-up activities. Now, as TDSB does have its own internal audit team, we provide supplementary services and ensure that we work together to coordinate coverage. Now, at each meeting, I provide the committee with an update on the status of planned engagements and other activities that we're undertaking. This update is included in Appendix A, starting on page 37 of the agenda package. Now, in addition to the activities that are outlined in the report, I did spend some time over the past few months working on audit committee training. Now, given a significant turnover in audit committee membership across the province, regional internal audit teams coordinated province-wide orientation training. And that took place in, as mentioned, January and February. So this training was delivered through a series of 4 one-hour virtual lunch and learns that covered a number of topics, including the audit committee regulation that I prepared and delivered, internal audit and internal controls, external audit and financial reporting, risk management, and then a final session to discuss just kind of questions to ask and things to look at as an audit committee member. Now, I did see that some members were able to attend some of the live training sessions. And if anybody does still wish to check it out, there is, the training has been recorded and posted, and I believe a link has been provided. The 2 engagements that are included at the table in the beginning of the report are ones that we're still working on from last year's audit plan, and we're still pending approval of the current year's plan. And the first engagement listed, we're developing a succession planning toolkit. We piloted this toolkit in the ITS department and used the feedback received to further refine the tool. Now, we do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with the project sponsors to discuss what still needs to be done to bring this engagement to a close. The second phase of the strategic workforce planning will follow the first phase with the specific objective and scope to be set as we're finalizing the first phase. So we hope to work on that objective and scope, over the next couple of months. In addition to the engagements from last year's plan, the update details some of the other activities that we have been or will be working on this year. So regarding follow-up activities, I do expect to have some momentum in this area over the next few months, as we do soon hope to have a resource available on our team to dedicate to follow-ups across the 6 boards. Now, moving down the list, I've completed the REACT coverage report, which I've attached as Appendix B, and that's on page 39. So this is something that I've been requested to pull together annually to share what we're doing across the region and to present some common risks, issues, recommendations, and leading practices that we've identified. So the table on the first page lists engagements that have been completed throughout the region since the beginning of the previous fiscal year. So as you can see, there were some common engagements. Now, this table is followed by just a summary of similar issues and leading practices noted. So some of those issues are specific to a type of engagement like records management, while others are common themes that we found across different engagements, which relate to general topics like policies and procedures. Now, we've also noted some common risks that we found throughout our risk assessments and some areas where risks have been increasing throughout the sector. The table on page 41 shows what we have on our plan for this year. So this includes current year engagements already agreed to by the audit committees and some previous year cleanup that we're trying to get out of the way. Now, skipping ahead to Appendix D on page 47, the next item to be brought forward is the Regional Internal Audit Charter. Now, this charter is something that internal audit standards require us to have, and this needs to be presented and signed periodically. Now, given that there are a number of new audit committee members and changes have been made to the provincial template, I'm bringing this forward again for review and approval. And this is something that I do intend to present annually, not necessarily signed annually, but presented annually as part of our annual reporting to the audit committee every September. Now, this charter defines the RIAT's purpose, authority, and responsibility. And so it's based on the requirements in the internal audit standards. Now, this charter has been adopted by all RIATs across the province. And as I mentioned, there were some changes to the provincial template to clean up and clarify a few things. And these were based off of a quality assurance review that was done on another regional internal audit team. So they received feedback, and then we've incorporated that into the provincial charter. So one of those changes was actually, so we previously did call this document the mandate, but in order to align ourselves with the internal audit professional body, we're calling it the charter now. Further, there was an additional amendment made, and that which is specific to our region. So that's on the bottom of page 47, and it reflects that we have a coordinating and steering committee in place, made up of members of each of our 6-member boards to help oversee the RIAT. So this is just in addition, just to reflect that we do have something additional in our region. Now, any updates since the previous version have been tracked in the version included in the agenda package. And a recommendation was made on page 38 to approve the charter, and which must be then signed. Now, the last item that I'm bringing forward is the audit plan, and this covers this year and next year, and is included in Appendix C, starting on page 42. Now, as required by Regulation 36110, the Audit Committee must recommend the plan to the Board of Trustees for approval. Now, given the new members, and this is something that we started rolling the ball on back in September, I just want to give a quick recap as to what's gone into developing the plan and what's happened so far. So at the September Audit Committee meeting, I presented a short list of 7 engagements that were selected to address risks from the board's risk register that captures key risks for TDSB that have been identified and assessed by management. The process used to select these engagements and the factors that we looked at have been outlined in the report. Now, the audit committee did request that we obtain feedback from 2 other trustee committees on which of these risks to address and engagements to include in the plan. So members of these committees were asked to rank each of those 7 potential engagements from highest to lowest priority. And the responses were tabulated and the results are on the top of page 43. 1 risk came out on top, 2 were tied for second, 3 for third, and the last was ranked 4th. So based on this feedback, we've proposed to include engagements in the audit plan to address the 3 risks that were ranked as 1 and 2. So those were complaints management, incident handling training, and student achievement. The larger table further down on page 43 outlines the year we plan to undertake the engagement, the related risk from the risk register, as well as the preliminary engagement objectives and scope. Those are very preliminary. Those would be finalized when we actually go in to do the engagement planning at that time. However, so we've identified 3 engagements. However, we also need a 4th engagement to round out the 2nd year of our plan. And there were 3 risks that were rated the next highest. So as a result, I'm requesting that committee members agree on a 4th engagement. So that's out of 3 risks and potential engagements, 1 being parent and student human rights reporting, the 2nd being student accommodation, and the 3rd being an engagement that addresses both the student learning and curriculum implementation risks. So the risks and proposed engagements are outlined in the table starting on page 45 of the agenda package. So thank you for allowing me to present my report. Before I hand it back to the chair, I wanted to recap the recommendations that were being made to the audit committee. So first, there was the recommendation to approve the updated charter as presented. And then second, we would need the audit committee to select a 4th engagement for RIAT and recommend the 2-year regional internal audit plan to the board for approval. So I'd like to close out my update by thanking those who were on FBEC and PSSE at the time for providing us with feedback on the that helped us rank these engagements. So I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee members may have, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the audit plan.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Hatt, have you written those motions, what you actually need from us? Have you sent it to Mr. Nortes? Because it differs from the original recommendation, which was just to receive the report that's been moved and placed on the floor. So I just want to make sure we're capturing what you need from us. And as you do that, I'm going to facilitate the last piece of information, which was between parent-student human rights reporting, student accommodation, and student learning. It's my understanding you need the committee to choose one of those to add into the engagement activities. So I'm wondering if any committee member has a strong opinion about parent-student human rights reporting, student accommodation, or student learning to move forward as the 4th.
Excuse me, Chair, maybe you could individually poll each member.
Certainly.
Sure, I didn't catch that. Poll the members. Did you say poll the members?
Just ask each individual member which one they want.
Certainly. Thank you for that suggestion. So I will begin in no particular order except for the order that is on our agenda sheet. So Trustee Arts, do you have a view?
I would prioritize student accommodation.
Thank you very much. I am next, and I would also do student accommodation. Trustee Pay.
Yeah, I'm also in for a student accommodation.
Thank you very much. Trustee Wong. I'll come back to Trustee Wong.
Talking.
Unless, sorry, I can't hear you if you're go on. on mute?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Always forgot to unmute.
No problem.
Yes, I agree. I agree that student accommodation is
Uh,
again.
Thank you very much. External member Chow?
Oh, hi. Can you repeat the options again, please?
Of course, I'm happy to. It was parent, student human rights reporting, student accommodation, and student learning. In addition to complaints management, incident handling training, and student achievement.
I would go with student learning.
Thank you very much. And external member Pilkey. I didn't think. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Naveen? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Chair, I do believe he's left the meeting at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I hadn't seen him. So you're up, Ms. Pilkey.
Sorry, I would also say student learning.
Thank you very much. So that is 4-2.
Could I just comment?
Of course you can.
Thank you. I would just comment that from an audit perspective, I'm interested to hear from the, if we go with student accommodation, I'm just interested to hear from an audit perspective what you would, what the auditor would expect to see. So I'm just curious, is there some particular audit problem that has been identified by this one? Or is there a control issue around this that has not been activated?
Ms. Hack, could you respond?
Yes, through the chair. So we had identified, so going through the risk register, there were some measures that were identified in terms of management's action plan as to what action would be taken with regards to student accommodation. And so it would be more kind of going through each of those areas and providing assurance that those plans are mitigating the risk.
I think she's asking about the student learning, not the student.
Oh, sorry, I'm asking about the accommodation, actually. I guess my question would be that given that with the, whether this is a good use of time of the RIAT, because the fact is, even if there is accommodation issues without an ability to close schools or consolidate, I'm not sure what you're actually measuring at this point. And you'll note probably that we're still 1 year behind already on the audit plans for the RIAT. So use of time, I understand why we would care about accommodation. I'm just not sure that the RIAT would, an audit by the RIAT would provide any benefit to the board. But I understand why we care about it. And if that's the way the group is going, I'm fine, but I would just comment.
I think potentially, at least I can just speak for myself if I can pass you the chair since
I'm in the room, sure.
Thank you very much. For me, I would think potentially an audit by the RIAT might help our cause.
Okay.
Did anyone else want to speak, or shall democracy rule? And from a 4-2 vote, we'll go with student accommodation. This is just informal right now. We'll put it into a formal recommendation. Would anyone else like to speak on this? Seeing none, then I'm wondering if we have the actual wording of the change instead of just receipt. There are actually a couple of actions we need to vote on.
Thank you, Chair. Just if you just pardon me for one moment, excuse me, I should talk into this. My apologies.
No problem.
I'm just going to put something on screen in just a moment.
Thank you so much. And then I'm going to ask the mover and the seconder if they're comfortable with this change, if they'd like to continue to move, or if we're moving receipt of the report and then these two actions separately. Mr. Nortes, please advise us of that as well. We'll just give it a minute to get up on the screen. Thank you. So the way it is now is it's recommended that the regional
Internal.
internal audit team, RIAT engagement, and status update for February 2023 be received, and for the regional internal audit plan and internal audit charter changes be approved. And do we need that the fourth issue would be accommodation? Do we need to add that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I think that was moved by Arts and Wong or Pei?
The original mover was trustee Wong, seconded by trustee Pei, correct?
Thank you. Trustee Wong and trustee Pei, are you okay with moving this? Because what you were going to move was just receipt.
Madam Chair, I'm fine with it.
Thank
I'm
you.
fine with that too.
Okay, we're adding
Thank you
the,
very much, trustees Wong and Pei. So we'll just give it a minute to make sure we know what we're voting for. Thank you very much. So I'll read it through one more time. It is recommended that the Regional Internal Audit Team engagement and status update for February 2023 be received, and for the Regional Internal Audit Plan and Internal Audit Charter changes be approved, and that the fourth engagement to the plan be focused upon student accommodation. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Online?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Any opposed? Thank you very much, Ms. Hatt, that those are approved. Thank you. Item number 11 is for information only, so I don't think we need a mover and a seconder.
It is actually for a regular standing item and requires the committee to receive it.
Okay, so this is for receipt, Audit Committee regulations. It's the work tracker. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Arts?
Thank you, trustee Art, seconded by?
well,
Thank you very much, trustee Wong. I'll go to executive officer. Associate director.
Thank you, and I will turn it to Comptroller Chu.
Thank you.
Through the chair, this work tracker is a standing item for the audit committee, and it provides the tracking list of all the requirements as per Ontario Regulation 36110. And we've updated the election of the chair, the RIAT audit plan, and the annual compliance report in this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions on this? Seeing and hearing none?
Sorry, Madam
Oh,
Chair,
sorry.
sorry.
Please,
I'm always
yes, trustee
late
Wong.
getting myself unmuted.
No
Sorry
problem.
about that. Just a simple question. It's like, how do we, is it like easy way to access that tracker?
Does the
So-
tracker exist somewhere where audit committee members can go in and see it, I think is what is being asked.
It is in the report package. So it's from page 54 up until 63. Yeah, it is in the package.
It's in the package. It's not a living document. It was printed and attached to the agenda.
So it's not a link that we can go in and check like like frequently.
Through the chair. So we simply update the tracker with each audit committee meeting, and the items are presented against the requirements of the Ontario regulation. Yeah, so it's updated every time we have an audit committee meeting.
So it's a standing agenda item. You'll see it at the next meeting as well, updated. Any other
Thank you.
questions, trustee Wong?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, committee members? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you very much. There was an item added as item number 12, which was an oral update on the Auditor General Value for Money audit. Associate Director, sorry, do we need a mover and a seconder to hear this oral update?
No, it's just to hear the
Thank you
update.
very much, Associate Director Zucker.
Thank you, and through the chair, I'm bringing this forward just as an update for our committee members and trustees. On January 9th, we received a letter from the Auditor General letting us know that as part of their ongoing work, They selected the operations of the Toronto District School Board for a value for money audit for their 22-23 audit year. So they will be on site doing their research and planning right now. And then they are establishing the scope and the audit will continue. So we have had 2 meetings with the staff of the Auditor General and have been providing them with information. We will continue to work with them to have this information provided. The intention would be, once the scope and timing are completed, is to continue to update the audit committee. The annual report prepared by the Auditor General usually comes out at the end of the calendar year, so we would see the results in that annual report. Usually how it works is they will come in, they will do their audit, and then they will prepare the report. Staff will see the draft of the report and be provided an opportunity to provide management responses, and then that would be the final document that would go into the audit report. But we will continue to update trustees, and I'd be happy to answer any questions right now.
Thank you very much. I see Ms. Pilkey's hand.
So many questions. Through you, Madam Chair. Has the Auditor General done value for money audits on other school boards?
Thank you, and through the chair, the Auditor General did a value for money audit on school boards in general and picked 4 school boards specifically a number of years ago, less than 5 years ago, but this is the first I've heard of a specific school board being identified. They have done a value for money audit on a specific college and universities in the past.
So they picked the largest school board to start with it? Okay, seemed like a good plan. Do you have any idea how much staff time will be required to meet the requirements of this audit?
Thank you, and through the chair, it's quite significant. The initial request that we had listed 40 documents or 40 different areas that they wanted to see, going back 3 years in all of the areas. So staff has been working to gather this information. It would be hard to estimate the time, but it is taking some time from staff.
Through you, Madam Chair, is there adequate staff to meet the requirement to do this, or are you going to have to hire other staff to meet this or move people around? Will the internal audit of the TDSB, like WASF, be working on this in a way that they're not able to do other audit plans that we already have?
So thank you, and through the chair, right now we do think that it is sustainable with the staff that we have. They have been working on it, and we do have one of our controllers staff assigned to sort of coordinate everything, working with myself and Associate Director Pond's exec assistants, working on gathering the information. If it were to become too much, then we could look at bringing in some staff to help us, and would bring it back to either FBEC or this committee to let trustees know.
Through you, Madam Chair, the second part of my question, do we think this will affect the audits that we already have planned? I understand that our internal audit staff, their time is already accounted for trying to do the ones that were approved previously, and will that affect it?
Thank you, through the chair. At this time, we don't expect it to impact any other audits, but again, if it were to become more burdensome, then we would bring this forward.
And through you, Madam Chair, you indicated 40 different areas. Do you think that means they're going to audit 40 different areas, or they're going to select from those 40 different areas?
Thank you, and through the chair, the 40 different areas were very broad, so I think they're using it to do some research to narrow the scope of their audit down, and we did meet with them this afternoon to help to narrow it down as well.
So through you, Madam Chair, by the June meeting, you would have a better idea of what's really happening then?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. May I pass the chair?
Sure.
Thank you. Further to Ms. Pilkey's comments, will staff be please tracking their time and effort in order to comply with this, because at the end of the day, it will be interesting to know how much the board has spent in terms of staff time on a value for money audit. I believe it will be an interesting figure and may help us in the long run. So I would appreciate that through you, Madam Chair, to staff.
Thank you, and through the chair, we will.
Does anyone else have any further questions on this?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Please.
Trustee Arts.
Thank you.
Along that, thanks through you, Madam Chair. Along that same line of questioning, has there been any offer of compensation for the amount of time that our very valuable staff are going to be taking to do this?
I'm going to Associate Director Zucker, who is not laughing.
Thank you, and through the chair, we have not been offered any support. And I will say that the timing, as soon as we heard about it, it was expected that we would be prepared within the next week, basically.
Anything?
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Yes, then I hope that that the tracking of how much time this takes will be something that we can then point back to the ministry, especially if nothing particularly useful with regards to our education mandates in terms of student success and well-being come out of this. I would also like to understand at the end, I only have a peripheral understanding of what the government is trying to get at with their value for money audits. And I don't see at this point how this kind of audit benefits education for students, or perhaps informs the ministry of how they could be funding systems better. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Ms. Pilkey's hand up again.
Through you, Madam Chair, a further question to the Associate Director. Was there any indication why they selected this for an audit?
Thank you, and through the chair, it was not indicated in their initial letter, and have not heard the particular reason.
The reason I ask is because when I was a trustee and we voted for the budget and we had a deficit and no reserves left, I wonder if that triggered something with them, if there was any indication of that.
Thank you. Okay then, thank you very much for the oral update. And before we move into private, I just want to, on behalf of the Audit Committee, express our deep gratitude to Marissa Chu for her outstanding years of service to the PDSB, both in her role as Comptroller and her role when she was Acting Executive Officer through some very challenging budget processes. And I want to congratulate her. She's going to be starting with the City of Mississauga, leading their finance division. And I think it's great. She's reporting directly to the city manager. Our loss is certainly Mississauga's gain. And on behalf of all of us, Ms. Chu, thank you very much for your service. And if that can be noted in the minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Laskin. I just also want to take this opportunity to thank this committee and TDSB for the opportunity to serve this committee. I actually started on this committee as audit and risk manager 10 years ago, and I just remember developing the internal audit team, drafting its first charter, and 10 years later, where we are. So I'm very, very grateful. I'm going to miss everyone very much, but I do hope that we keep in touch and maybe even share some best practices, right, as colleagues of the public sector. So thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you very much. So we'll, can I have a motion, please, to move into private?
Trustee Pay.
Thank you very much, Trustee Pay. A seconder?
Trustee Arts.
Thank you very much, Trustee Arts. I heard you first, so if we can please, everyone in support of moving into private.
Aye.
Thank you so much, and if we can cut the live feed, we would